Why is the title screen music always so loud? Anyway, let's continue. And hope I didn't forget everything in one day. I doubt it. Not been that long. Although I do forget why I'm talking to this guy. Oh yeah, he's talking about tomorrow's trial. Let's see. What about tomorrow's trial? What's going to happen at the trial tomorrow that's so dramatic? Do you know what your biggest mistake so far has been, Sir Lawyer? It was becoming a lawyer in the first place. That certainly does not sound like a big mistake, Mr. Nick. Tomorrow will be the day to remember. I, Luke Atme, will take the stand. And then, Zavari, my testimony will prove to be the undoing of the lot of you. Yes, all of you. I will unmask you as the thief's co-conspirators. Conspirators? Hee 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 hee. You're quick on the defense, I see, however. It is not I that is your greatest enemy. There is a far more dangerous threat that you will face during the trial. What are you talking about? Sir Lawyer, if you truly are who you say, I'm sure you've heard of him. His name is Godot. Yeah, I heard of him. Godot? Hold on. Okay. Let's get back to this. You have taken a step down the path of foolishness. To try to defend a career criminal who deserves nothing less than the death penalty. Hey, last time I checked, no one knows for sure that Mr. Delight really is Damask. Hee hee hee, my dear lady. Times may change, but people, sadly, do not. Well, you will understand this when you are more mature. Who is this Godot person? It's not surprising that a spirit medium has not heard the name. So where's my chat? There we go. Godot, the prosecutor whose equal cannot be found in this country, but in heaven. Godot, a legend or myth. Men pin a lifetime of hopes on the chance to simply meet him. Prosecutor Godot? But the best prosecutor in the country isn't Godot, it's Mr. Edgeworth. Isn't that right, Nick? It's no surprise that a spirit medium such as yourself would know nothing of this. But Ace Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth is currently traveling abroad. Huh? In fact, it was Mr. Edgeworth who acknowledged Godot as the best in this country. And you agree with that? Most certainly. In fact, you could call him the Luke Atme of the prosecutor's office. Well, that's good to hear. The prosecution has a fighting chance tomorrow. Mr. Nick, is this Godot really that strong? I seem to remember hearing about someone like that. Not surprising. Some people spend their entire lives idly waiting for his appearance. It looks like we're done investigating for the day. Hee, Sir Lawyer. The stage has been set and all the pieces are finally in place. All that remains now is for the dance to begin. A new prosecutor, an ace detective, and a thief. This will be one tough trial. I'm still suspicious of that red jewel he has. October 13th, 9:36 a.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby number 4. Hey, Nick! What is it? Is something wrong? Nah, but did you see all the people here? It's crazy! Oh, so check out the mask-to-mask glossy I bought. You bought this? Where? From the little tents in front of the courthouse. They have all sorts of things for sale. You know, I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. Come on, I'm guilty. Throw the book at me. Hold on. I want to look at that. Huh. What's he carrying? Who's screaming like that? Oh, Mr. Wright, you made it! Yeah, I did. But it doesn't look like things are going to get any less ugly for you. Because I did it! I'm the criminal! Me! He's at it again. I sent the calling card to Lordly Taylor, I admit it. But you don't have the Sacred Urn, right? Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean that I didn't commit the crime. Normally when I say, of course you didn't, I'm being sarcastic. But you... Yikes. Anyway, I admit that I'm guilty. So make sure they give me a guilty verdict, please. Oh, there you are, Ronnie. Bonjour, sweetie. Oh, Desi, honey. Bonjour. Well, actually, I don't really know why I should be speaking French to you at a time like this. Leave it all to me, Ronnie. I swear I'll protect you. You see, actually, the thief is, me. Can I tell you something, Nicky boy? I can guarantee that my Ronnie is innocent. If he's declared guilty, I'll be ever so cross with you. So why are you smiling when you say it? Well, if you'll excuse me, I've got some errands I need to take care of. I'm counting on you, Nicky boy. Good luck. To be honest, I really don't know whether Ron is to mask the mask or not. But there's only one thing I am sure of. He doesn't have the Sacred Urn right now. Mr. Delight, it's time for you to enter the quarter. For the time being, I guess I'll have to trust Desiree. Oh hey, it's the first time we see Godot. Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Ron Delight. The defense is ready, Your Honor. What about the prosecution? Are you prepared to... What a stupid question. What did you say? Fine, let me ask you then. Your Honor, are you ready? Are you ready to pass judgment? No, I'm not. I will pass judgment after I hear the arguments from both sides. Well, if you're not ready yourself, you shouldn't expect others to be. That's a rule to live by. Who are you? I am Godot. Legendary prosecutor. I've never lost a case. Ah, he's the one that Detective Atme was talking about. Yes, your reputation precedes you. What kind of cases have you dealt with so far? Ha, none. What did you say? I've never prosecuted a case before. Never? But you said you've never lost before. Well, if he's never done a case, he's never lost. Exactly. I've never lost. And I've never won before, either. Quite arrogant for a beginner, aren't you? Even the mightiest of redwoods begin their lives as mere saplings. Yes, but... a mask? In a court of law? Ah, don't you know anything? No matter the man, we all wear masks. Either on our faces, or over our hearts. This guy is the real deal, alright, Nick. Why does it seem like all prosecutors are the real deal? So we finally meet Mr. Phoenix Wright. Nick, is he a friend of yours? No, I don't have any friends that call me Trite. Just who is this masked man? I've returned from the depths of hell to do battle with you. Well then, Prosecutor Gobo? It's not Gobo, it's Godot, Your Honor. In any case, please give your opening statement. Opening statement? Those things are not fit for even dogs to consume. They're not fit for even dogs to consume. I have only one thing to say before we start. To you, Mr. Trite. What is it? Are you familiar with the saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link? I wonder how much you can withstand before you and your case break in two. Well then, let's hear from the first witness. Actually, I just heard that saying, well, not specifically that one, but a different version of it, like an hour ago. Weird coincidence. My name is... No one has asked for your name, witness. The important thing is what you know, that's all. Start talking. We're listening. Yes, sir. Alright, witness. First, let's hear about what you know about the thief that stole the urn. Yes, sir. Mask the Mask is a master thief that first started his crime spree 6 months ago. He's so confident that he sends his calling card before he even commits the crime. This was his 5th heist, and as usual, he sent a card on to Lordly Taylor. His pattern is to always go after only the most precious art pieces. That's why we're sure of it. It was Mask the Mask, sir. It fits his modus operandi to a T. So well, I should just say MO, but like, now they made me want to say it because they've spelled it out each time. So then the actual identity of this Master Mask is Mr. Godot. What are you? We're in the middle of a trial here, Mr. Godot. Blacker than a moonless night, hotter and more bitter than hell itself. That is coffee. I'm sure you can grant me at least this much, Your Honor. Oh, please proceed. Very well, it's only coffee after all. What? You can't be letting him slide this early in the trial. Proceed with your cross-examination, Mr. Wright. Well, Nick, what are you going to do? As long as they haven't brought up Mr. Delight's identity, all we can do is show that it wasn't Mask to Mask who stole the urn. Yeah, let's press him. Have you been involved in the investigation from the beginning? Yep, nobody knows more about the thief than me, pal. It's true, I'm a Zavari, author on thieves. An author? He's written books about thieves? I think he probably meant to say authority. The fact that this guy can slip through even my fingers shows how good he is, pal. It's easy when those fingers happen to be butterfingers. Do I want to press harder? I don't know. Let's see what happens if we press harder. So nobody knows more about the thief than you, huh? You got it, pal, except maybe for the thief's mom, that is. But isn't there someone who knows even more about him than the police? You don't mean Detective Zavari, do you? Who is this person? Zavari? He sounds German. His name is Luke Abney, sir. I guess I shouldn't have made up such a silly name for him. What the heck? I guess he's not all that famous after all. Anyway, it's true that he did manage to retrieve the last item the thief stole. Oh, I see. It seems you're not the expert you claim to be. It looks like the thief is toying with me even now. He's so confident he sends his calling card before he even commits the crime. Have you seen all of these so-called calling cards? Of course I have, except the person in charge of the treasure exhibit never brought their card to the police. So I didn't see this one until after the crime occurred. That's because Detective Atme stopped Miss Andrews from taking it to the police. Was the calling card that Lordly Taylor received authentic? Well, all the cards have one common identifying feature. But we're not releasing that information to the general public. But you're absolutely certain that this card is real. Gumshoe can't say it out loud, but I bet he's talking about Mask to Mask's emblem. This was his 5th heist, and as usual, he sent a card on to Lordly Taylor. His 5th heist, and your 5th screw-up, huh? Objection, pal. That ain't fair. Maybe you could say I screwed up 4 times. But this last time wasn't my fault. I didn't know about the calling card this time. You of all people shouldn't be chuckling about this, Detective Gumshoe. I just want everyone here in the courtroom to know something. If you ever get a calling card from this guy, don't call some stupid private eye. Call your local police right away, got me? Wow, it looks like he's really got it in for Detective Atme. But it's not one of the most precious art pieces. Art pieces? Like what, for example? Well, his first target was the famous Tear of Amanah. What's that, some kind of especially salty teardrop? No, sir. It's a blue diamond. A single, rare diamond. It was the crown of... Next was the crown of Bongora. You know, the thing you put on your head. After that was the left hand of Hades. And then the portrait of Megina, sir. Detective Atme retrieved the portrait of Megina and returned it to the museum. And the 5th target of his... And the target of his 5th and last robbery was the Sacred Urn, right? But isn't it difficult for him to dispose of such famous art pieces? Well, we assume he must have some underworld connections. Somehow, Mr. Delight doesn't look the type. Yeah, he's a little too sunny to be hanging out in the underworld. What do you mean when you say it fits its MO to a T? I was thinking of asking the same thing myself. Ugh, I wish you would listen a little more closely, pal. First of all, there's a calling card. We're 100% certain it's authentic. Then there's the fact that he seemed to know all about the security system. And finally, his target was an art piece. These are all part of the thief's modus operandi. And so, since this robbery seems to fit all those conditions... That's right, it means that Master Mask is behind it. Nick, it definitely looks like it was Master Mask who stole the urn. But there's no real evidence either way as to whether Ron Delight is Master Mask. But... Also, the urn hasn't turned up yet, so let alone in connection to Mr. Delight himself. So even though we don't know it was Master Mask that did it, maybe for the time being I should try to show it wasn't Master Mask that did it. This seems suspicious. Because it's not very precious. It has no monetary value. Can I ask you a little something, Detective Gumshoe? Just hearing the little in that question is making me nervous. You said that he always goes after the most precious art pieces, right? That's right, pal. But there's one problem. That's not what he did in this case. The supposedly priceless urn doesn't exactly rise to the level of precious art. What do you mean? Nick, how can you say such a terrible thing? No, I meant from a financial point of view, I mean. It wouldn't fetch a good price. Well, Prosecutor Godot, what is the value of that urn? The appraisers I spoke to said they couldn't attach a price to it. And I mean that in the worst sense. So in other words, it was not the kind of item that Master Mask would normally go after. If I understand you correctly, Mr. Wright. You're saying that the theft of the Sacred Urn was not the work of Master Mask. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Actually, all I did was point out the contradiction. The argument made itself, but... Well, first of all, we need to get this issue cleared up. Was this last robbery the work of Master Mask or not? What do you have to say about this, Mr. Godot? This coffee here, it's my own special blend. I call it Godot number 107. I'm trying to decide whether to cut down on the acidity or the bitterness. That's the only thing I've got on my mind right now, Mr. Trite. What? If you're really a man, you should clean up your own mess. Sorry, but I don't get what you mean. You're saying it wasn't Master Mask that stole the urn? Then it must be someone intimidating Master Mask's methods. A fake. A fake Master Mask? Fake Damask? That sounds so ridiculous, but I like it. Now, before I decide on my coffee, I believe some proof is in order, Mr. Trite. Prove that the person who appeared at Lord Laytaylor that night was actually a fake. Though I don't approve of Mr. Godot's behavior his point is valid. Mr. Wright, we're waiting. Looks like I'm going to have to prove it. I need proof that the person at Lord Laytaylor that night was in fact fake Damask. That's him. And that's him. There's something different about him? His hat looks normal. What about his, like, suit? He has that big thing in the center. Does he have that big thing in the center here? No. Meaning that it wasn't a mask after all. Let's present this photo. I'm pretty sure that means it is it. We check this. Priceless, but it isn't priceless. I think it's this photo, though. The proof is right here. This looks like a photo taken by a security camera, but if you look closely, you'll notice something peculiar about it. Ha! Well then, why don't you go ahead and show us what it is? Go on. Use this pointer and show us what is peculiar about it. Right here. It's right here, of course. You mean mask to mask? I have it here a piece of reference I would like the court to take a look at. Isn't that the publicity photo I bought this morning? Problem I have with the security camera photo is the brooch on Mask to Mask's chest. A breach? Here? Bailiff, get my steed. We need to retreat at once. A brooch, Your Honor. It's a sort of clasp for holding one's cape up. A clasp, eh? Ah, I see now. But the mask to mask in the security camera photo. Ah, he has no brooch. That brooch is the same as the emblem on the Mask to Mask's calling card and serves as his symbol. But the thief that broke into Lord Lee Taylor wasn't wearing a brooch. In other words, this Mask to Mask is a fake. I've been fooled again. Order! It's true. Undeniably true. Detective Gumshoe. How could you have overlooked this? I'm sorry, sir. I don't know how I... Hey now. You're gonna have a pity party, invite me too. Mr. Godot, you deserve some blame in this too. How could you have overlooked such a large brooch? Huh, the brooch you're talking about? Do you mean this? Ah, that's Master Mask's brooch. Where did you find it? Well, I've always had a good nose for evidence. I've got it at the crime scene. It was hidden in the shadow of a big female Buddha statue. Buddha statue? He must mean the Amy Faye statue. Why didn't you tell me about that, sir? I always put evidence away in my pocket. After all, it's the safest place for crucial evidence. This guy is one cool customer. It's a little early to be shaken up, isn't it, little lady? That friend of yours left a pretty little hickeys there too. Hickeys? Figuratively speaking, of course. I'm referring to Ron Delight's fingerprints. What? What? The defendant's fingerprints are on the brooch? Order! Order in the court! Mr. Godot, let's see that brooch. I've grown attached to my metallic girlfriend here. Take good care of her. It appears to have been torn off some clothing. There's a little bit of cloth left on the back. Obviously, there must have been a big struggle that night at the crime scene. Uh-oh. Phoenix, we have a problem. Found in the shadow of Amy Faye's statue. Looks like it was torn off some clothing. Ah, you mess with Godot. And you get burned. Grr. He's playing me like a violin. Well, Judge, I'm about ready to call my next witness. Huh? You're done with me? But I haven't proved anything yet. You've proven your own incompetence. That's good enough. That doesn't sound good at all. Bailiff, bring the next witness into the courtroom. Finally, time for the ace detective to make his appearance, huh? One second is one drip of the coffee pot. Let's hurry it up. Shh! Silence! Hee 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 hee. Now I see. It's all becoming clear. What's clear? Zavari. The truth has once again been elegantly revealed to me. What we have here is a judge and a prosecutor. A coffee maniac, at that. Am I correct? Well, yes, that's correct. That's right. Ah, not bad. Not bad at all. You're the first person that's ever been able to penetrate my secret veil. Well, Sir Prosecutor, let me introduce myself. My name is Luke Atme, Ace Detective, and Rising Star illuminating the heavens. Boy, these two make a perfect pair. They'd either be best friends or they'd tear each other's heads off. I've heard that on the night of the crime you were all alone on security detail. You have heard correctly. My specially made monocle is worth more than 100 Detective Gumshoes. If Detective Gumshoe was worth anything, that is. Why was this guy all by himself anyway? There must be some reason. I'm sure of it. Well then, tell us what this special monocle of yours witnessed. It was approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, just after the date changed. That's when my nemesis, the infamous Mask-to-Mask, dancingly descended upon me. Just as I began to turn, the coward struck a fierce blow upon my noble head. Darkness followed me before I could land a single strike. When I awoke, he was gone. 30 minutes later, I used an emergency phone to notify the police. So you didn't get a clear look at the criminal? My specially made monocle never misses a thing. However, that is limited to things that fall within my own visual range. But of course, that's only natural. I fail to see why the witness seems so proud of his performance that evening. Well, Sir Old-Timer, let me explain. We are not speaking of any ordinary thief, but the king of thieves, the great Mask-to-Mask, my arch-enemy. That is what my instincts and my years of experience tells me. Very well. Proceed with the cross-examination, Mr. Wright. I don't think this is important, but I'm gonna press him on it. Oh, I should have saved in this one. There we go. So that would be 1 o'clock in the morning of the 12th, correct? That's an impressive deduction, Sir Lawyer. You were on security duty that night. Where exactly were you at the time? A penetrating question. I was in the basement warehouse near the computer. Near the computer, huh? When you weren't trying to remain hidden, I take it. So then you weren't trying to remain hidden, I take it. Up to this point, I have tried to remain concealed while waiting for the thief. Yeah, he said the same thing yesterday, too. Gumshoe also said that they've never spotted the thief at the crime scenes before. Precisely. That is precisely why I chose not to hide last night. I knew that by not concealing myself, I would be putting pressure on the thief. Looks like the thief was the one applying pressure on your pigeony head, that is. In any case, that's when my nemesis, the infamous Mask of Damask, descended upon me. Dancingly descended? From where exactly? Well, from the entrance, I suppose. Where else? So in actuality, he neither danced nor descended. Someone please save me. So how is it that you didn't notice the thief? My eyes were looking for the thief's shadow while my ears listened for his footfall. But even so, the dastardly criminal managed to sneak up on me. It can only be due to his subtly camouflaged cape and soft-soled shoes. I hereby W. Ace Dunce. You didn't see the criminal's face when that happened? Well, that's the difficult part. How should I put it? I saw his mask. That's all I can recall. It's not very solid as far as testimony goes. However, fortunately I had my third monocle, the security camera, at the ready. Captured this image perfectly. This should be sufficient, I believe? Well, as long as this photo is authentic, I don't see a problem here. Well, Mr. Godot, do you have a problem with the photo? Good. Then let's continue with the testimony. Attacked and knocked unconscious, and you weren't able to do a thing? That's certainly some very impressive detective work. Well, Sir Lawyer, have you ever been suddenly struck on the head? Actually, quite a lot. There has been quite a few times I've been struck on the head. Huh? Well, actually, yes. By a fire extinguisher. And what happened? I was knocked out. And you lost your memory, too. You see, you have no right to look down on me then, do you? The only reason I didn't lose my memory was because I have more brains to begin with. You may have brains, but the wiring to the self-reflection part seems to be severed. In any case, that was how I was knocked senseless, and then... How did you know it was 30 minutes later? About this 30 minutes. My silver cord was loosened, and my soul fled to the golden halls of Elysium. As usual, I have no idea what this guy is saying. think he's saying that he was out cold. So, what happened during these 30 minutes? No one can say, Your Honor. That span of time has truly vanished into the ether. But what is he going on about? There's something suspicious about Detective Atney. How could he not have noticed when the thief came in? Also, he says he was knocked unconscious before he could fight back. But that can't be right. Contradicts the evidence. Huh? Which piece? The real question is, why would he tell such a obvious lie? What evidence? Thought there was a fight. This was torn off some clothing. Thank you for the hint, by the way. I was not thinking about that. Let's present this. Mr. Atney, could you take a look at this with that special monocle of yours? Aha, this belongs to the criminal mastermind, my arch nemesis, Mask to Mask. Wait a second. We look at this image here. I don't see any torn clothing, but whatever. It is, in point of fact, Mask to Mask's brooch. It was found on the floor of the basement warehouse. I wonder how that happened. Ah, elementary, my dear lawyer. Obviously, it wasn't glued on well enough. Not quite. It clearly shows signs of having been ripped off a piece of clothing. Ripped off? Aha! We can only deduce that the thief struggled with someone that night. That's the only thing I can think of. And there's only one person that was in a position to have a struggle with the thief. The only person that was on security duty that night. You, Detective Atney. Detective Atney, you must have fought with the thief that night. So why did you lie in your testimony to the court? Witness, giving false testimony is a serious crime. No. Wait just a moment, sir old-timer. Don't talk to me like I'm living in a nursing home. Hee hee hee. I just remembered, Your Honor. I was just confused because I've been dealing with so many cases lately. The true measure of a man is in the amount of work he does. That's what I always say. Nick, you can only handle one case at a time, isn't that right? You talk too much. Witness. So, are you now saying that you and the thief fought? Hold on. That's quite enough, Your Honor. Excuse me? Save the big questions for the testimony. That's one of my rules. Indeed, I understand. I, Luke Atney, agree completely. Indeed, it's true that I looked away from the door for a brief moment. However, Luke Atney cannot be so easily discombobulated. Unfortunately, the thief grabbed a weapon from the side and rendered me senseless. A true gentleman fights only with his own fists, but they were not enough. His first blow struck true, bam, and that's all she wrote. So in the end, you did catch a glimpse of Mask to Mask? Correct. It was during his third crime that he struck me from behind. seems that my memory has just become a tad jumbled, so to speak. Well, that's certainly understandable. I myself always get confused about which testimony goes with which case. That can't be good. So why did you look away from the door anyway? In addition to the camera, I had prepared a variety of other sensors as well. The alarm on one of those had gone off, so I had to check the data. That's why I went to the computer, elegantly of course. So you were momentarily vulnerable when you were looking on the computer. What should I do? Should I ask some more questions? Let's ask about the sensor. What kind of sensors are you talking about? There are other places in the basement that someone could enter and exit from. There are air conditioner ducts, sewer pipes, and a cat door as well. I hooked up heat-detecting infrared and ultraviolet sensors to each of them. That's a lot of hardware. Was it all yours? Lordly Taylor Department Store was kind enough to provide the monitoring hardware. Naturally, the security camera that took the photo belonging to them as well. In other words, he couldn't have rigged the equipment, huh? Hee. Has that cleared up any doubts you had about me, Sir Lawyer? So did that computer belong to Lordly Taylor as well? Correct. Well, except for the program that manages the data. That was specially designed by me, Luke at me. In that case, he could have easily manipulated the data. Hee. What's wrong, Sir Lawyer? What does that mean, discombobulated? Young people these days, they really irritate me. They allow perfectly good old words to die until everyone forgets what they mean. Sorry, but what exactly does it mean, anyway? Now I've forgotten. What was I saying? Gee, that's better than old people who forget what they were saying 5 seconds ago. Well, it looks like we've cleared that up. You can go on with your testimony. The entire thing was discombobulated. What do you mean by the weapon from the side? Naturally, the thief had no idea that I, Luke at me, was hiding in the area. He grabbed the sword from the statue that was standing by the door to the warehouse. Sword? You mean the sword that was all twisted like a tree branch? Correct. Fortunately for me, the blade was not sharp. Okay, so he is talking about the 7 whatever sword. So the thief armed himself with the sword, and what about yourself, witness? true gentleman fights only with his own fists, but they were not enough. You had that much faith in your own fighting abilities? But of course, in college, I was the second in charge of the boxing club. I'm sorry if I fail to find that approximately impressive. However, my opponent in the ring this time was my arch nemesis, Masked Mask. This guy is a real piece of work. His first blow struck true. Can you tell us a little more about what happened? My opponent was both powerful and vicious. You might say he was powericious. Powericious? I assume he had me fighting stance, but a sudden flash of light blinded me. That of course was checkmate. My opponent had bested me. What do I do now? Should I ask more about this? You were blinded? What was this flash of light that blinded you? I was bathed in a golden light that seemed to come from the statue of the woman. Statue of Amy Faye, I'm guessing. Well, that wasn't very much help at all. Well, what do you think, Nick? Well, there's one thing that I'm absolutely sure of now. Yeah, what is it? This Look At Me guy. He's definitely hiding something. But why? I think I'm starting to figure out what really happened that night. And about the true nature of this detective. What is this at-me fighting style? I'm sorry, but that's a trade secret. I really can't say anymore, but I suppose I can tell you if I absolutely must. Main thing is to put your back to the wall. That way no one can get behind you. That's it? That's the at-me fighting style? Well, Mr. Wright, what about the testimony? His back against the wall. A blow to the back of the head. It was very important. Of course it's important. We've learned a detective's secret technique after all. Yes, indeed. I'll remember to use it if I ever take a walk alone late at night. Why the heck is he eyeballing me like that? It's creeping me out. Now then, witness. We'll go ahead and add that secret information to your official testimony. I put my back to the wall to fight, but the thief's blow landed upon my third eye. Detective At-me, your testimony is crumbling like a house of cards. What fun this is, Sir Lawyer. It is truly a pleasure to cross swords with you. And now, once again, you have thrown down the gauntlet at my armored feet. I believe this is what you said yesterday. No, the coward must have wormed his way in through somewhere besides the door. Then my arch-nemesis struck me on the head from behind with this gruesome item here. From behind, huh? But just now you testified that he struck you on the forehead. I hardly think you could forget where you were hit on the head. Irk. It seems I've made another mistake. Detective Ethme, that's not the only strange part of your testimony. What do you mean by that? For example, the very fact you hid the calling card from the police itself is strange. It's almost as if you were afraid they were going to help with security. Irk. Geniuses such as myself have always been misunderstood. How sad. That's wrong. To err is human. To forgive is divine. Wait, what did he say? To forgive divine? Oh yeah, that makes sense. To forgive divine. He just omitted the is because context. Humans aren't machines. They have souls, feelings. They live, they die, they love, they hate. And yes, they even make mistakes. Hey, hold on. It's not as pretty as that. Really? What is it like then? Always chase a riddle down to the end. That's one of my rules. This is it. This might just be my chance to turn things around. Mr. Wright, what exactly is it that you're asserting? Very well, Your Honor. The defense asserts that Mr. Atme is no ace detective. This Mr. Atme is a fake. Or Mr. Atme is masked a mask. I'm gonna go with that one. That was my first assertion. The answer is simple. It's all clear to me now. Detective Luke Atme's true identity is actually masked a mask. What? Order in the court. Mr. Wright, what is the meaning of this? There are too many unnatural parts to Mr. Atme's story. He says he was hiding at the crime scenes, which is why no one ever saw him there. And then, in his last case, he manages to outperform Detective Gumshoe and the entire police force miraculously retrieve the stolen treasure. That's because I analyzed the crime scene data and made an exquisitely elegant deduction. I picked up clues that the police overlooked in order to arrive at a... Oh, please, the explanation is far simpler than that, Detective Atme. The truth is that you are, in fact, masked a mask. But, Mr. Wright, this photo, it clearly shows masked a mask. The security camera belongs to Lordly Taylor Department Store. He shouldn't have been able to manipulate it. He didn't need to manipulate it. He gained access to the warehouse under the pretense of providing security. Then he simply dressed up as the thief and stole the urn. So, the ace detective is actually an ace thief. Is this true, witness? Aha. Damask's MO is pure genius, and so am I. Look at me, ace detective. You were very clever to have come to such a conclusion. I am impressed, Sir Lawyer. What? Witness, you're admitting it? Nick, now's your chance. Yes, time to put the last nail in this guy's coffin. Detective at me, when you assumed the... Threw coffee at me. Godot Blend number 102, my personal favorite. Mr. Godot! The ace detective is actually an ace thief. I smell a best-selling novel. There's only one problem. It simply isn't true. But Mr. Godot, Mr. Wright has made some very strong points, and I will admit my opponent has woven a compelling narrative out of a whole cloth. But it is, in fact, nothing more than a patchwork quilt, Mr. Wright. If this detective really is the thief, then show us the proof of your claim. But it better be as hot and as perfect as the coffee dripping down your face. Well, Mr. Wright, don't just stand there. This court would like to see this decisive proof you have, quickly. Huh? Oh, yes, of course. What's the big rush? Are you alright, Nick? Atme looks pretty rattled right now. I'd like to finish this right now if I can. But can I really do it? The decisive evidence that proves Mr. Look at Me is in fact masked a mask. It's the fact that the Sacred Urn hasn't been found. But is that the actual answer? It's right here! As usual, the defense comes prepared, Your Honor. Very well then, let's see what you've got. I don't think I actually have anything decisive enough. Please present proof that Master Mask is actually Mr. Luke at me. I mean, just look at them. If you look at them, they're pretty obviously the same person. Is this pot? I don't think I actually have decisive proof. Proof? Of course I've got nothing. Ha, just what I thought. A man has to hold his head up high no matter how bad things get after all. I see. Thought perhaps you had some evidence to back up your assertion. This is no good. Got to stay on the attack. I'll never get another chance to prove that this guy is the thief. Don't give up, Nick. Think harder and try again. It's no good. I'm just not ready yet. But are you going to just give up and let us lose this? So you come to your senses, have you, Sir Lawyer? I can't think of a counterattack at all. Seems the cloud of suspicion surrounds this witness has lifted. Mr. Godot. Who? Who are you? That doesn't really matter right now, does it? Miss Delight, what are you doing here? Nicky boy, the thing you've been looking for. I think I found it. You mean that bag? No, not the bag. What's in the bag? Well, that's the Sacred Urn! Nick, it's the urn! Order, order, order! You, madam! That urn, where did you find it? You'll never believe it. It was in the office of Mr. Fancy Pants Ace Detective Luke Atme. Oh, Desi, you're the best! Well, how do you explain that one, Mr. Atme? Even you are going to have a hard time weaseling out of this one. Still think it's his wife, but like... Objection! Let's see where it goes. Ha, pathetic. Mr. Godot, do you have something you wish to say? Yes, Your Honor. It simply amazes me how quickly times change. In the old days, a man was to be taken at his word. It's truly sad. You're still denying that Mr. Atme was involved? Before casting aspersions at Detective Atme, consider the young lady here. Your name is Desiree. Desiree Delight, is that correct? Yes, what about it? Ha, how charming. The lengths that a woman is willing to go to save her husband is truly inspiring. What are you insinuating? As the wife of the criminal, you could have discovered that stolen urn anywhere, including the office of the good detective here. In the office of the good... So you found the urn? What does that prove? Certainly doesn't prove where the urn was before you found it. What? I just brought it here from the detective's office. Please, madam. This town is already filled to the brim with lies. Any more could only compound the tragedy we have been witness to. You're wrong. I would never do such a thing. Miss Delight. Please, Nicky boy. You've got to help me talk some sense into these people. There must be some way. I've got to prove that urn was actually in the Atme Detective Agency. What will I pick? I can testify to what I saw, but I can't show the fingerprints. Let's testify. What's wrong? Isn't your job to come up with something to say? Nick, come on. It should be easy to prove. After all, we checked out that bag, didn't we? You're right. I remember doing that. Whatever was in there, it was hard and round and smooth, too. Yes, it must have been the urn. It must have. But I never actually saw it with my own eyes. Admi walked in just when I was about to have a look at it. So even if it was the urn in there, I can't testify that it was. Ack, you're right. Huh. It looks like I was wrong about you, Mr. Trite. In this town, overflowing with lies, there's still a single flickering candle of truth. Nicky boy! It's true that I never actually saw the urn, but maybe I can still testify about it from another angle. What about it, Mr. Wright? Have you given up yet? There must be some way. Got to prove that urn was actually in the Admin Detective Agency. The fingerprints. I can prove where the urn was. By the fingerprints on it. Fingerprints, eh? Oh, come now. Now you're really making me laugh, Sir Lawyer. Fingerprints indeed. May I go on? Good. Now, it would be perfectly understandable if my fingerprints were on the urn. After all, it was I who was guarding the urn in the first place. In any case, I am always in the habit of wearing gloves, as you can see. So unfortunately, my fingerprints wouldn't be evidence of anything. What about it, Mr. Wright? This witness's fingerprints would mean nothing anyway. Nick, what are you going to do now? Come too far to turn back now. Admi must have brought the urn back to his office yesterday. And there, for sure someone must have left their fingerprints on it. The defense proposes that the fingerprints of this person should be found on the urn. Of what person? Of Mask to Mask? That wouldn't make any sense, though. But does anyone else make any sense here? Not really. Gumshoe wouldn't have. Oh. If Rhonda Light is actually Mask to Mask, then his fingerprint should be on it. Let me give you an important piece of advice. The one who keeps it. That doesn't seem like the correct one. Save here. Who else would be there, other than maybe Mask to Mask? Like, obviously Adrian Andrews. But that wouldn't make any sense. Let's just present Mask to Mask. I don't know who I'm supposed to be picking here. The urn was put in that bag and carried to the detective's office yesterday. It was? That means the person I should be figuring is the person who left their prints on the urn yesterday at the detective agency. Do you really think there's someone that could fit the bill? Yeah. Your Honor, please give me just one more chance. Gumshoe? Like, what are they talking about, detective agency? I don't remember anything about a detective agency. My fingerprint should be on the urn. Should I present myself? A lot of people's fingerprints are on the urn. We could present Adrian and ourselves. I don't know if that's actually gonna help. So what is all this fuss about fingerprints anyway? Oh yeah, that makes sense, because that would prove my testimony. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that. Mr. Adme, do you recall the events of yesterday? Hey Nick, come on! Open it up! Hey, wait a minute, we can't just open his private property. Don't be such a fuddy-duddy. This is an important investigation. Well, what's in there? Hang on a sec. I'm taking it out now. Whatever it is, it feels kinda hard and smooth. Well, hello there. It's true that I didn't get a chance to look in the bag at that time, but I did touch what was inside. What? You touched it? And I remember it very well. It was smooth and hard. Well, that was just... Your Honor, I'd like the court to examine the fingerprints on that urn. If my fingerprints are on there, then it proves that the urn was in Detective Atme's office. Well, even if your fingerprints are on the urn, it still doesn't prove when they were put there, does it? Of course it does. What did you say? It's not what I say, but what Adrian Andrews, the person in charge of the exhibition, said. I polished it until it was just about glowing. I thought maybe I could make it look more valuable. If she polished it that much, she must have removed any and all fingerprints on it. And the only chance I have to get my fingerprints on it after that was yesterday at the Adme Detective Agency. Ha, this blend, Godot blend number 107. I've decided it's a little too bitter after all. His visor is smoking. Order, order, order. I accept the defense's request. Bailiff, take this urn and... Wait! Wait a moment, Your Honor. There's no need for that. No need, you say? Precisely. I already know Mr. Wright's fingerprints are on the urn. What are you saying? Yes, I've finally broken him down. Take a good look, everyone. Unable to find a rival worthy of my genius, I was forced to create one by myself. Here I am, the tragic clown. This guy is nuttier than a fruitcake. You see, it was me all along. I am the one and only Mask de Mask. Haha, I hope you all enjoyed my little performance. That's it. Well, Mr. Godot, what's Mr. Atme's condition? He's still in the lobby laughing insanely, Your Honor. Wish I could enjoy the joke as much as he seems to be. Well, it looks like the matter has been settled. I came perilously close to besmirching the record of an innocent young man. Besmirching him with the title of thief. Nick, you were right after all. Yeah, I guess Mr. Delight really wasn't the thief. The court finds the defendant Mr. Ron Delight. I knew there had to be more. You're wrong. Wrong, I tell you. I mean... Not exactly wrong so much, but actually not right is what I really was trying to say. Oh no, he's not. This can't be happening. The thief! The sneaky, odious thief who's been stealing all the treasures. It's me! It's him! I'm the one you want. I'm the thief, I tell you. So do it. Pronounce me guilty, please! I don't know what kind of kangaroo court you all think this is, but... The true identity of the thief has already been proven. Please hurry and pass it. What are you talking about? I already confessed. I'm the thief, I tell you. Mr. Godot, don't just stand there drinking coffee. Ah. Hey there, Mr. Thief. Yes? Yes, sir? If you're really a man, then clean up your own mess. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I just don't have any idea what you mean. If you are Mask to Mask, then prove it. That's what it means. Yes, sir, I'll be happy to. Says he'll be happy to, Nick. He's kinda cute. He's 100% committed to his fantasy. Good boy. Just remember one thing. A boy only gets one chance in his life. To become a man. I know that. I won't fail. I swear. Okay then. Talk. We're all listening. Oh well. Let's all have a listen to this confession. The truth is, I've been Mask to Mask all along. I mean, you can't prove that I'm not actually Mask to Mask, can you? I don't have an alibi for the night the urn was stolen after all. I donned my costume that night and dancingly descended upon the scene of the crime. Look, you can see right there in this photo. That's me. As for my brooch, I snagged it on the door handle as it got torn off. That's it. That's all. I don't like the direction this trial has taken. This is how every trial goes, at least with me, anyway. Huh. You're doing great. Hee hee hee. Stop it, Mr. Godot, you're embarrassing me. Like I said, you're only going to get one chance to testify, alright? But if you make it through this with flying colors, I'll keep my promise, too. I'll make sure you stay locked up in prison as the one and only true Mask to Mask. Thanks so much, Mr. Godot. I'll do my best. Alright, Mr. Wright, I'm afraid it's time for the cross-examination. You may think you're the real Mask to Mask, but your wife thinks you're delusional. I haven't told Desi yet about my true identity, I mean. Believe me, I've got my reasons. With the way your room is decked out, how could she not know about it? Even thieves have complicated family situations, I suppose. What should I do? Sounds like we're about to get sidetracked again. So why are you withholding the truth from your wife? Well, first of all, I don't think she'd believe me anyway. And second, if there's one thing that Desi absolutely detests, it's criminals. Are you sure? She seemed like pretty ridiculous. I guess she did say she didn't really like criminals. If that's the case, then why did you ever start thieving to begin with? Well, Desi is crazy about shopping. She's a real shopaholic. But she's the love of my life, Your Honor. I guess you could say I'm a Desi-aholic. So you have a complicated family situation after all. Alright, that's enough. Please continue with your testimony. I beg of you. I thought you were going to be the one to show us the proof. You know, that you're the real Mask to Mask and not just some kind of obsessed fanboy. Hey now, that's not fair. Why do I have to do all the hard work anyway? Maybe it's because you're the one making the outrageous claim for a change. Come on, Nick. You know that Mr. Delight couldn't have committed the crime. You're the one with the fancy law degree. It's time to put it to work already. Need some kind of proof that Ron couldn't possibly be Mask to Mask. I guess if you had that kind of proof, we wouldn't still be here, would we? Time being, maybe I need to shift strategy. Try to show that Mr. Delight couldn't have stolen the urn. Anyway, I don't have an alibi for the night the urn was stolen after all. You've got no alibi? I've been judged for a long time, and this is the first time I've ever heard a defendant brag about not having no alibi. But I tell you, I was in Lordly Taylor that night. No. That's too vague, even for me. To be more precise, I was down in the basement warehouse. Hold on. What is it, Nick? where was Ron Delight when the crime happened anyway? We can prove he had an alibi after all. This case will be a piece of cake. Well, you're right, but... Huh. You think you can prove that? Wake up and smell the coffee. Well, I think maybe I can. That's right. Do you have any evidence that shows the defendant has an alibi? His wallet? At 1 a.m. When was the crime committed? "1 a.m. Yes, I have evidence. I have the evidence? Or do you think I'm still some sort of third-rate rookie? Oh, I've never seen you this angry before. I'm not surprised. Anger is the last refuge of the pathetic. I thought I was more confident than angry. Well then, let's see this evidence already. Show to this court evidence that proves where your client was on the night of the crime. Mr. Delight, this wallet belongs to you, correct? Ah, yes, it does. I had lost it somewhere. Mr. Wright, when did you find a wallet? When you find a wallet, you should report it to the police right away. Ah, no, you don't understand. This is an important piece of evidence. Evidence? Mr. Delight, when did you first notice that you'd lost your wallet? Let's see. I think it was on the night of the crime. But I know I still had it when Desi and I went out for dinner. This wallet was found at approximately 1 a.m. at the KB Security Headquarters. What? Surely you're not serious. Yes, I am serious. This proves that Mr. Delight was in fact at KB Security that night. No! So if the defendant was at KB Security at 1 o'clock in the morning, then that proves that he has a watertight alibi. No! Furthermore, considering the distance between Lordly Taylor and KB Security, it would have taken 30 minutes to get there by car. According to Larry, anyway. Well, Mr. Godot, do you have anything to say? And stop drinking that coffee. Come on, Mr. Thief. Don't let this guy beat you. Tell him why he's wrong. You're the only one who calls me thief, Mr. Godot. Alright, I'll try. I'll do it. I will. He's really got Mr. Delight all worked up. Yeah, he's like a kid at his first day of school. Look, it's just ridiculous. Why would I have dropped my wallet at KB Security? Someone must have planted it there to make it look like I was there and not at the heist. Planted it there? He's really reaching now. Mr. Delight, you probably dropped your wallet when you took it out to use this, didn't you? The keycard to KB Security's CEO office. No! Huh, that was a pretty good try, Mr. Trait. Unfortunately, you've overlooked one small thing. What? Motive, of course. Why would this thief go to KB Security in the middle of the night anyway? Because he works there? And also this blackmail letter. Well, Mr. Wright, it looks like you need some more evidence after all. Grr, this stupid kid. Now then, let's see your evidence. The evidence that shows why Mr. Delight went to KB Security at 1 AM that night. Mr. Delight, I believe you've seen this before, correct? That's... What is it? A blackmail letter. That's what it looks like from the contents. But blackmail? Yes, basically it says bring $50,000. That certainly sounds like a blackmail, alright. At the time of the theft, Mr. Delight was dealing with the blackmailer himself in KB Security's CEO office, a full half an hour away from the scene of the crime. Ugh, No, 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 no! Order, order, order! When the theft of the urn occurred, the defendant was at KB Security. Looks like a perfect case for the defense. You may see it as a perfect case, Judge, but to me... Well, let's just say that my Godot blend number 107 impresses me a lot more. What are you trying to say? You say the thief was being blackmailed by the CEO of a security company? But did you actually investigate this CEO at all? Huh? Well, no, I guess not. Accusing a man of blackmail with no proof? I'm not sure what I think of that. Not sure what I think of that. At least I know what I think of you. Good point. I'm not sure what I think of it myself. Claim that the defendant entered the CEO's office. But you will need at least one witness to corroborate your claim, Mr. Wright. Nick, I think we're going to have to track down the CEO guy. Nah. We can just ask for, Larry's help. No, we don't have to track down the CEO at all. What do you mean by that, Mr. Trite? There is someone else who can testify. This is the person who can testify that the keycard was used at 1 AM that night. Who is this useless-looking young man? Wow. You don't remember him, Your Honor? Not exactly. Just looking at his picture makes the bile start to rise in my throat. It looks like he doesn't remember the case from 2 years ago. Probably blocked out that memory on purpose. Anyway, this man was working as a guard at the KB Security that night. Oh. The question at hand is this keycard. Yep, that's the keycard they used in the building I work. According to the serial number, this one is for the CEO's office. You need it to get into that room, and every time you use that card, it leaves a record. Yeah, it tells you exactly who entered the room and when. As you can see, there's no need to investigate the CEO of KB Security. You should be able to discover the truth simply by analyzing this keycard's data. Blah. Well, Mr. Godot? The name of the CEO of KB Security is Kane Bullard. I was unable to contact him directly, but I got the keycard data here. So what does it show? Each keycard has its own serial number, and they leave detailed records of their use. According to this data, this card was used at 1 AM on the morning of the crime. But that means it can't be Mr. Delight dressed up as Masked a Mask in this photo. But his statue. Ha. It looks like you're right. Or it's his wife. I still think it's his wife. 2 minutes isn't even enough time to brew a good cup o' joe. So then Rhonda Light was clearly in the office of KB Security's CEO at the time of the crime. The prosecutor's office is ready to admit that fact. Therefore, it's impossible for the defendant to be masked a mask. Good job, you did it, Nick. But I didn't prove who was really the masked a mask's fake. Which we thought it was a fake, but I'm pretty sure it is a fake. That's enough. I came perilously close to besmirching the record of an innocent young man. Besmirching him with the title of thief. What's wrong, Your Honor? I'm ready to pass judgment. Before I do that, do you have any further objections? No, Your Honor. Very well. Someone's gonna say hold it, aren't they? The court finds the defendant, Mr. Ron Delight, not guilty. Court is now adjourned. What was the whole point of that, though? I'm still suspicious. I still don't think Masked a Mask was really the one who stole it. Even though he obviously stole it. But why did he steal it? What was his motive? He has no motive. Nick, you did it! You were right after all. Was I? Actually, I'm a little bit ashamed of myself. Nicky boy! Oh, Mr. Light. I knew you could do it. I believed in you all along, Nicky boy. I don't know how I can never repay you. Aw, shucks. Thanks, Mr. Light. I just know I'm blushing. Congratulations, Mr. Nick. Oh, pearls. I've got a bad feeling about this. Gasp! Who is this woman? Oh, she's nobody. She's just, You're blushing! How dare you do this in front of Mystic Maya? You should be ashamed of yourself. Ow! She slapped me. Pearly. This woman is Miss Desiree Delight. She's our client's wife. Gasp! Mr. Nick! Yes? You're even worse than I thought. going behind the back of your own client. No, you've got it all wrong. I'll never forgive you. Ow, a double slap. Well, anyway, all's well that ends well, right? I've got the Sacred Urn back, and the thief has been caught. Also, why does it spell Amy now? And why is it covered in paint? There's still, like, so many... This does not feel like the end. How is this the end? You're so right, and it's all thanks to Nicky Boy here. But actually, it was you, Mr. Light, that brought us our urn back. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Oh, please, you're embarrassing me. If we won the case... And why does this guy still look so glum? Well, but I am the thief. Actually, what's the point now? What is it, honey? I did my best for you, Ronnie. I know that, and I appreciate it, Desi. But the thing is... Come on, give the kid some time. He's just got a little touch of the blues, you know, about feeling blue, right, amigo? Mr. Godot, what are you doing here? Oh, come on, I just came here to say thanks to my newest buddy. You, Mr. Trite. Maybe you should learn my name before you call me buddy. Well, playtime is over. Huh? Early this morning, the body of Kane Bullard was discovered. Bullard. Kane Bullard? Where have I heard that name before? He's the CEO. Obviously, it's not over yet. Isn't that the name of the CEO of KB Security? Wait, body? The estimated time of death was 1 a.m. on October 12th. 1 a.m. on October 12th? You don't mean... That's right, amigo. He's charged with murder now. Great. The same time that a cheap little urn was being stolen, the CEO of KB Security was being murdered. So then, what are you doing here? Oh, come on. You figured it out already, haven't you, amigo? Or have you already forgotten about that piece of info I helped you out with today? Helped me out? What? On October 12th, at 1 o'clock in the morning, Rhonda Light was in the CEO's office, the scene of the murder. After getting that blackmail letter, must have been imbrued with utter rage. What are you saying? Imbrued with rage? Oh, come on, don't tell me you didn't know. Rhonda Light was once an employee of KB Security. He was a professional security guard. An employee of KB Security? Looks like the alibi that saved him from being convicted as a thief. It's going to be the noose that gets him hanged, kind of an anti-alibi. No way! He can't be the thief because he was at the murder scene when the murder occurred. No, that's a lie. It can't be true. Oh, but I am a thief, I tell you. Rhonda Light, you're going back to prison again. This time, the charge is much more serious. This time you'll be tried for murder. What? This is impossible. I'm looking forward to another exciting showdown, Mr. Trite. You and I aren't through with each other yet. Surely you won't back down from a challenge. You've never been a coward. Mr. Nick, is there something personal between you two? I've returned from the depths of hell to do battle with you. At least let me have some fun while I'm here. This guy? Who the heck is he? He may be quiet, but he's the most dangerous enemy I've ever faced. Well then, time to say goodbye to Mr. Delight. Nick, how could this be happening? Right in front of our very eyes, our client has been arrested for murder. And the one who established his presence at the scene was me. Yeah, Ronnie. I knew this case wasn't over. It was too easy. Too many loose ends. Arrested for murder on the very same day he's declared innocent of larceny. What the heck's going to happen next? No, I'm glad we found the urn and all, but poor Mr. Delight got arrested again. Well, supposedly Mr. Delight was in the CEO's office when the murder occurred. But was it his wife? His wife seems certainly very protective of him. No way, Jose. I don't buy it. But the one who proved that Mr. Delight was there was Mr. Nick himself, at least from what I can understand. What does this actually say? If you don't want your true identity revealed to the world, come to KB Security at 1 AM on October 12th and bring $50,000. You don't, I'll take that red diamond you received the other day instead. Looks like you did too good, Nick. Too good of a job this time, Nick. Well, how about we get started looking into the KB security murder? I think I'm going to head back to Curine Village for a little while, if that's alright. Sure, but why? I'm going to bring the Sacred Urn back and have some people take a look at it. Oh, that's a good idea. I think I'll go with... No, Mystic Maya, you should stay here. I want you two to spend some special quality time together, full of love and happiness. Pearls is so caught up in her fantasy, she forgot there's a murder to solve. Sacred Urn given to Pearls. Now remember, no fighting, okay? It says Amy now, though. Why does it say Amy now? It still seems so suspicious. I still think there's something else going on here. Since, how did the urn get put back together? And like, why would the Mr. Atme like put it back together? And why would he steal it? He's masked a mask. And also, like, what is his motive for stealing it? And also, like, what about his girlfriend, Mrs. Delight? Is she the one who murdered the security guard? This case is everywhere. She's gone. Okay, Nick, time to get going on this murder investigation. Talk to the Sacred Urn. You must be relieved we got the Sacred Urn back, huh? You bet. But there's something a little different about it. Me? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, take a look at this. It clearly says, I am, on the urn in the poster. But the urn we got back says Amy, like it always used to. Oh yeah, you're right. Plus, the vase has pink splotches on it now. I'm sure they weren't there before. He doesn't know, but 1 year ago, when the urn was broken, the repairer accidentally turned Mystic Amy's name into I Am. That repairer was one mechanically unskilled little Pearls. But still, I don't remember ever seeing pink splotches on it. Is it possible that urn is a fake? I'm sure Pearls will find out about that once she gets back to Curine Village. Yeah, I suppose. Now that I think about it, it could be a fake. And Desiree already stole it, and then murdered. This is getting out of control. I'm trying to connect up these ends to see, like, could she be in technically 2 different places at once? Maya hasn't been back to Curine Village in a long time. So I guess people still go to Curine Village to do their training, huh? Right? Yep, if you want to become a spirit medium, you need to undergo severe training. So why haven't you been training lately, Maya? Well, lately I've been thinking of heading to a channeling dojo to do just that. A channeling dojo, huh? Sounds pretty serious, whatever that is. If you're going to train, you have to be serious, otherwise real tragedies can happen. Is what happened last year still bothering you? That murder in her village happened because the power of channeling was misused. When a medium uses the Curine channeling technique, she temporarily loses her own will. But when a specially strong spirit is summoned, spirit medium can get taken over and even forced to commit terrible crimes. What's worse, in those cases, the spirit medium has no memory of what happened. That murder, it wasn't your fault, Maya. You know that, don't you? I suppose not, but I guess I'm still a bit shaken up, that's all. Sounds like being the master of being the master of curing is going to be a heavy responsibility. What should we do, Maya? So what do we do now? Isn't it obvious? We should get out there and investigate the murder. First, we need to find out exactly where KB Security is located. Hey, why don't we ask Miss Delight? She should know. Besides, I want to ask her some stuff about motorcycles. Motorcycles? Nothing of getting one, are you? I'm not the same little Maya who used to be happy with her dinky little bike, Nicky boy. Now she's calling me Nicky boy. Speaking of asking around, I've got a few questions of my own for Mr. Delight. Okay, well, let's make sure to go to the detention center, too. I already told you, it's not a sad, pitiful whine that tapers into silence. Sounds like they're interrogating Mr. Delight right now. Man, and we don't have enough time as it is. Yeah, well, I guess the police are going crazy just like we are. Yesterday they thought he was just a thief, but now they got a murder case on their hands. I guess you're right, that guard over there looks a bit on edge too. Come on, we'll just have to come back later. Okay, let's go check out some other place, Nick. Does he look on edge? This guard monitors the visitors room. Looks like he doesn't have much to do right now. I can tell because he's looking at the camera and making funny faces. He doesn't seem on edge, then. It doesn't make any sense. There's a motorcycle. Oh, Nicky boy, Maya. Miss Delight. All I wanted to do was help my dear Ronnie. Yeah, but I guess it ended up hurting his case. Don't say that, Nick. She doesn't need your help beating herself up. Hey, Nicky boy, please help Ronnie. He's not a killer, I swear. My Ronnie wouldn't hurt a fly. Alright, I'll poke around and see what I can find out. Really? Are you serious? Oh, I'm so happy. I knew asking for your help was the right thing to do. I don't know I don't know what I can do to help anymore. I had no idea Miss Delight had such a vulnerable side. Dun 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 dun. Do 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 do. Do do do. I don't see any red gems, so there goes that theory. Listen carefully, Nicky boy. My Ronnie would never, ever kill anyone. It's just not in him. I don't think he would either, Nick. Yeah, but you have to admit, he's got a bit of a temper to him. It's not that hard to imagine him just snapping and screaming, "Please die!" He would never say that. Anyway, Miss Delight, he might not be a killer. but he's still going around saying that he's a thief. I already told you that's just a fantasy for him. Mr. Light, I hate to say it, but you're the one living in a fantasy world. What? How dare you say that to me, Nicky boy? I know everything about my Ronnie. We don't have any secrets between us. Ronnie isn't the thieving type. He's so honest that he wouldn't even sneak a nap. Yeah, but how does he get all his money? He's so honest that he wouldn't even steal a glance. A thief, huh, the very idea. I guess I just don't get it. Huh? Get what? I can't understand how they can be so different and yet be such a happy couple. Yeah, they sure are different. Come on now, Nicky boy, it's not that mysterious, is it? It was love at first sight, for me anyway. What? For you? I hate these kinds of people more than anything. You mean ace detectives? No, I'm fine with ace detectives. Oh, so then you must mean thieves. No, they're alright too. I just hate thieves that pretend to be ace detectives. There's nothing I hate more than cowardly men. By the way, why did you go to Detective Atmy's office anyway? Well, as the trial went on, I started to get more and more anxious. I went there to try to find out more about the real criminal. Alright, yeah, sure. The real criminal. I think you're letting up... You're something more than you're letting on. I think you know more than you're letting on. The real criminal? Yes, obviously the real Mask to Mask is not my Ronnie, right? Yeah? And Detective Atmy knew more about Mask to Mask than anyone else. They mentioned him on the Great People Around Town segment on TV. So then, you went there to ask him some questions? That's right. I'll do whatever it takes to save my man. His secretary said, the ace detective isn't in right now. I forced my way past her and into his hideout. Wouldn't exactly call that office of his a hideout. That bag was sitting right there on top of the table. Oh yeah, we saw that bag there yesterday too. There's nothing lower than someone who would try to pin a crime on someone else. My question is, where was it before? Because it wasn't there before. Because we met him, and then he left, and then there was a bag, and then he came back. So where was it before then? Mr. Light, do you know about KB Security? Don't be silly, of course I do. That's where my Ronnie works. So she thinks he still works there, huh? And yet, according to what we heard today... Come on, don't tell me you didn't know. Ron DeLight was once an employee of KB Security. He was a professional security guard. Ron quit. He doesn't work there anymore. It looks like Miss Delight doesn't know. KB Security is only about 20 minutes away by motorcycle, that is. Larry told me it takes 30 minutes by car. That sounds important, because she speeds. The time could be shorter for her. I'm still super suspicious of her. Well, I have to admit, I tend to fly pretty fast on my bike. To make it to KB security that fast, are you sure you aren't literally flying? Why don't I give you a ride sometime? Or better yet, how about now? No thanks, I'm good. No. I'll pass, thanks. Why don't you just tell us where it is and we'll go ourselves. Haha, what a scaredy cat you are, Nick. Mr. Light told us the location of KB security. Okay, let's head over there right away, Nick. So was it really love at first sight when you first met Mr. Delight? Well, maybe not at first sight, but Ronnie saved my life. Saved your life? I was at work one day when 2 robbers suddenly rushed in. Not the kind to just curl up into a little ball in a corner, so I fought back. Robbers? Yeah. They took me hostage. I was so frightened. They were both carrying these huge knives, and I broke down into tears. Yeah, I would too if I were in that situation. Oh, I think I get it. Did Mr. Delight come running to save you? Yes, exactly. I remember he looked so handsome in that guard uniform of his. He went right up to those 2 knife-wielding robbers and screamed in their face. Please stop it, he screamed. I could see the robbers' faces turn pale. That high-pitched shriek of his does have some surprisingly strong effect on people. Then, crying and swinging his arms like crazy, he attacked the 2 robbers. All by himself, he came to save me. A total stranger, all by himself. He was so scared that he was crying and shaking, but he still risked his life for me. Wow, that's a great story. Yes, he may not look it, but in a tough situation, there's no one better. That's why I fell in love with him like I did. Sniff, sniff. That's so romantic. I'd fall in love too, I guess. Nick, I hope you'll do the same for me if I ever get taken hostage. Maya, that possibility seems to loom in the not-so-distant future. Well, I mean, she was already taken hostage. Story is ridiculous. You know about the blackmail? Do you know about this? Oh, is that the letter addressed to my Ronnie? Sorry, but I hate it when people poke their noses into other people's business. It looks like Miss Delight doesn't know about it. Which means she had no idea that her husband was being blackmailed. That's Ronnie's wallet. It was found at KB security on the night of the murder. Ronnie and I went out to dinner early that evening. I'm sure he had his wallet with him then. So it's true then. He must have dropped it at the crime scene. Ah, I know what that is. That's one of those key cards from Ronnie's company. Come to think of it, it's been a long time since I've seen one. That's probably because Braun doesn't work there anymore. Let's talk about Larry. Oh, this is the guy who delivered Ronnie's wallet. Got some issues, doesn't he? Huh? Let's just say his flirting style is pretty obvious. Pretty stale too, actually. It's pretty sad when the only thing you remember about a man are his lame pickup lines. What's even more sad is said man probably believes in was like they're his lifelines. Looks like he blew it again, huh? Grr, I don't like this man one bit. He's had it in for my Ronnie from the very beginning. It's his fault that Ronnie is under suspicion of committing murder. Plus, he lobbed a coffee grenade at me. You look pretty silly wearing that mug on your head like a birthday hat. Oh, I know. We can get him back tomorrow by returning fire with a milk grenade. Do 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 do. I think that's everything I wanted to talk to her about. So I guess this is where it all went down, huh? The walls in here look thick, just like you'd expect in a CEO's office. What has that got to do with anything? Hey, it's you guys. Oh, it's Detective Gumshoe. Hey, Detective Dick. I miss pearls. Today was a real train wreck for you guys, huh? Sure was, pal. That prosecutor made real fools out of us. Yeah, I feel for you. Wow, that's not like you at all. I thought you'd be more like... Oh, that was great! You guys got what you deserved, pal! Ho ho ho! Or something to that effect. Do I really sound like that to you, pal? If the gumshoe fits. Well, anyway, the point is, I can tell when someone puts their heart into their jobs. And I can sympathize when things don't go your way. Sometimes I feel like wrong is the only way things go for us detectives. Wow, I had no idea Detective Gumshoe was such a nice guy. Now, if this little love fest is over, maybe we can start investigating. Let's talk. What happened? Detective Gumshoe, tell us what you know about the murderer. Okay, but the thing is, I'm really not supposed to... Hey, come on, what about how we put our hearts into our work? Things are really working against us right now and we need help. Okay, I'll tell you, just don't start crying on me, okay, pal? Okay, I won't cry on you, pal. The victim's name is Kane Bullard. He was the CEO of KB Security and a pretty big fella in his own right. His corpse was discovered at 9 this morning. His estimated time of death was 1 in the morning on October 12th. Cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, probably an object in this room. It happened at exactly the same time that Mask the Mask was stealing the urn, huh? Time of death, 10:12, at 1 a.m. Cause cerebral hemorrhaging from blunt trauma to the head. So why did it take almost an entire day to discover the body? There's a good explanation for that one. Bullard's body was stashed away inside that safe. Safe? Well, it is pretty big. Nobody had heard from him, and when they opened the safe this morning, out he came. Oh, so the body fell out. That white string must be the shape from when he fell out. I think we still need some more information about Mr. Bullard. Mr. Bullard. Maybe you could start by getting the man's name right. So, what happened to Mask the Mask? He's at the detention center, screaming like a madman. Investigate me again! He keeps yelling. Ah, no, I didn't mean him. He's not the real thief anyway, right? Oh, you mean that detective at me? Ho ho ho. Oh, that was great. That guy got what he deserved. Ho ho ho. Now that's the detective I know and love. Think about it. Amni was always around when a calling card showed up. But he always mysteriously disappeared when the heists took place. I was hiding at the crime scene. Heh. Yeah, right. That's the lamest thing I've ever heard. That's how you just knew he was the thief. I would explain how he was able to retrieve the stolen item he keeps bragging about. Yeah, he just did that to make himself look like a great detective, that's all. But there's this one thing I can't figure out about his first heist. First heist? Yeah, the Tear of Ammonon case, where there was a witness on that one. A witness? Here, I saved the newspaper clipping. Since the thief is already under arrest, you guys can keep... Hey, this guard here. Haven't I seen him somewhere before? It's pretty small, so it's kind of hard to see, but now that she mentions it... That's when he witnessed Mask the Mask. Oh, that prosecutor! I really don't like that guy. The way he used our own evidence to do that to Mr. Delight. Yeah, I think he did it that way just 'cause he knew it'd hurt more. That's what my gut tells me anyway. So who is that Java-addicted masked maniac anyway? Prosecutor Godot? He's quite the enigma, huh? Thing is, pal, I never even heard of the guy before. He just showed up one day at the prosecutor's office. Came out of nowhere. That's right, he said this was his first case as a prosecutor. And it's true, according to the records anyway, but no way he's an amateur. He's an Iceman in court, a maverick that gives me goosebumps. There we go. Goosebumps? You? Yeah, I knew something was off about him, so I asked around. Nobody would talk to me. They all just turned the other way. Poor Detective Gumshoe. I had no idea you were so unpopular. No, that's not what I meant. The Godot guy acts like he knows me and has a grudge against me. I get the feeling he's hiding some kind of dark secret. About this blackmail letter. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it too, pal. Why would Kane Bullard have been blackmailing Ron Delight anyway? Well, Mr. Delight used to work at KB Security, right? But what was it that made him quit? Nick, that's it. Maybe that's the same reason he's being blackmailed. Well, I'm in the middle of investigating that right now. Oh, alright. This is proof that Ron Delight was here at the crime scene when the murder happened. His wallet. And this keycard, huh? Think we need to ask Mr. Delight some more things about those two things. Detective Gumshoe, about this right here. Sorry, it's hard to believe, but there's a limit on to how much my brain can hold. I got 2 ears and 2 eyes, but I only got 1 brain. See your eyes and... I can see your eyes and the ears, but the jury is still out on the brain thing. Hey Nick, if you have something to say, just come out and say it. This was his first heist, and I guess I underestimated him. I was sure I was going to get him, but I was careless and lost the info on the witness. By witness, do you mean the guard in this photo? Yeah, he and the detective worked together to try and catch Mask to Mask. But he got away anyway, huh? That guard. I got the weird feeling that I've seen him around lately. Doo-doo. Detective Gumshoe, tell us more about Mr. Shane Bullard. That's Kane Bullard, not Shane Bullard, pal. Oh yeah, the victim in this case just doesn't make much of an impression on me. Well, you were the victim up until Mr. Bullard was found dead. Yeah, and his body wasn't discovered until this morning. Anyways, we don't have enough information yet. Can you help us out? Sorry, I'm actually... what was that? I missed it. For some reason, I'm just blabbing like an idiot right now. Okay, Nick, now's our chance to get more info about the victim, so hurry up and ask. I guess he doesn't know anything. Kind of feel sorry for him. He's kind of a sad young guy. Yeah, and he seems to have a habit of always getting arrested prematurely. Well, it's just my personal opinion, but I think the police should have investigated the whole thing more carefully. But weren't you the one that arrested him with the giant goofy smile on your face? Come on, we don't have time to start with that. Let's just leave it alone. Oh wait, we didn't examine. I almost forgot to examine. This rope. Think it fell out of the safe when it was opened? I don't think so. So you mean... Yeah, I think the string shows where and how the corpse was lying. You mean... The victim, he was killed by being crushed by the safe door? She can't be serious, can she? Ew. Think about it, a dead guy was laying in here all night. Yeah, oh, by the way, don't bother asking about fingerprints, there were none. Well, somebody opened the safe on the night of the crime, right? Yeah, and so? Well, if Mr. Bullard's body was hidden in here, it must mean that it was opened by either the killer or the victim, right? Yeah, I guess so. Ho ho ho. I got some bad news for you, pal. Are you ready? Okay, shoot. Opening this baby is no piece of cake. There are only a few people who know how to open the safe, pal. Yeah, and everyone that knows how to open the safe had airtight alibis, I checked. Everyone except one, that is. I'm almost afraid to ask. Former security chief, Ron Delight. What? Ron Delight? He was a security chief? Ron? So he knew how to open the safe, huh? Yeah, sorry for raining on your parade there, pal. Check out this big, thick binder here. Leave the heavy lifting to me, Nick. Reading a file isn't exactly back-breaking work, just a little hard on the eyes. Ah. What did you find out, Nick? This file. It's not about any sort of security operations or anything. It's a huge file all about Mask to Mask. It's filled with info on him. What? What kind of info? Filled with incredibly detailed information about his methods and the crime scenes. Hey Nick, look at the last page. It's a list, let's see. Tier of Emanon, $100,000. This looks like it's a list of all the treasures that Damask stole. Then $100,000 is the value of the stolen item? I don't know. That number sounds kind of low to me. I think I'd better secretly make a copy of this list. Do 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 do. 100,000 Crown of Bongora, 150,000. Left Hand of Hades, 240,000. Portrait of Megina, 500,000. Just keeps going up. Looks like some kind of bookshelf slash rolling cabinet hybrid. I can't get in between these two shelves. Don't strain yourself trying. It looks like the shelves are controlled by a special panel. I guess it's one shelf that at a time, huh? Looks like they're filled with bunches of files. Yeah, files filled with data about security jobs they were hired to handle. It'd be a good night's reading if you got insomnia. I was hoping for something a little more exciting, like UFOs or something. This must be the CEO's desk. It's a lot simpler than I would have thought. Hey, that looks like a super soft chair. Let me try it out just for a second. Oh, nice. I feel just like a CEO. Hey, you. Whip me up a cup of some really expensive import tea. And some scones. Move it. This is the life. The victim sat in that chair just before he was brutally killed, you know. Eek! Wow, look at that huge framed photo. Tall mountains rising majestically against a dark and cloudy sky. There's a title written at the bottom of the photo. The greatest sunrise of my life. This is it? This was his best sunrise? Either this guy didn't get out enough, or he had really rotten luck with the weather. Maybe if he had lived a little longer, he would have seen some better days. Oh, there's a button here. Let's see. Uh-oh, Maya's gonna push the big red button. Are you ready? Beep, beep, beep. Hey, cut it out. Don't press that. Ha ha ha. That was pretty funny. I never knew Detective Gumshoe could jump like that. What is that button anyway? It's an emergency buzzer. It says right there on the panel. Oops, you're right. It's written right there. Nick, how many times have I told you to read instructions first? This alarm is connected to the basement's guard room. It's used to summon security up here. Really? Then it's possible on the night of the crime. Oh, so when the CEO was attacked, do you think that maybe he pressed a buzzer? Yeah, I thought about that, so I asked around down there. But they said that the buzzer never went off that night. Also, we couldn't find any fingerprints on the buzzer. Mr. Bullard, the victim, wasn't wearing any gloves, by the way, just so you know. I think we'd better go and talk to that guard about this emergency buzzer. Connected to the basement security guard. There are no fingerprints on it. Okay. Let's go visit the exhibition hall. The treasures of Curine exhibit are all ruined now. is all ruined now. Maya, I'm sorry, it's just so sad. This was our big chance for everyone to learn about spirit channeling. Maybe I can cheer her up somehow. Well, now that we've got the Sacred Urn back, maybe they can reopen it? Really? Sure, maybe we can label it the Urn of Master Mask's Desires. That would probably attract a lot of attention. Whoa, whoa, whoa! That's brilliant, Nick. Let's rate that as number 110 on ways to save money. We could clean it up. We could clean up and be filthy rich. Woohoo! Wow, that was surprisingly easy. I don't need to examine any of these. Wait, let's examine this, see if it's updated. Piece of cloth with a ton of finely written characters jammed onto it. Yeah. It still says only 108 ways to save money. Actually, it went down. Is there anyone here? Oh, it's you, Mr. Wright. Miss Andrews. What's she still hanging around down here for? So, how is it going about the Sacred Urn? The urn? Oh. That. It's been taken care of already. What do you mean, oh, that? Taken care of? Do you mean it's been found? Yes. It was brought in during the trial today. Wow, really? You really are the greatest, Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright had nothing to do with it. It was Master Mask's wife that found it. Well, anyway, I'm so relieved. Maybe this is still important somehow, but I don't know how. Like, why was there pink stuff all over it? Why is this actually bent? Did he fake bend it? He doesn't seem like the guy who kinda does that. So why was it bent? Did he use it to open the box? Why is the statue moved? There's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been answered here. I just learned all about it on the news. So that detective was actually the thief all along. It looks that way right now. It's my fault. I'm the one who ended up hiring Damask to guard the treasures. Don't blame yourself. You were just doing your job. Hey Nick, if she wants to apologize, you should let her. So when was it that you hired Detective Atme again? About 20 days ago. And when was it that Master Mask's calling card arrived? It was about 10 days ago. So he sent a calling card to the very place he was hired to guard. I guess that's it then. Detective Atme must have really wanted the Sacred Urn after all. I guess so, but why? What? So Master Mask murdered someone as well? Well, that's how things look right now. Yes, but I thought that he was here stealing the urn at the time. Well, we're talking about the criminal mastermind, so anything is possible. Nick, let's get down to business already. On the night of the theft, did you notice anything suspicious about Detective Atme? No, I couldn't have. After all, He was hidden the entire time. I never even caught a glimpse of him. Claims that it's the way he operates. Always operates. That's just what he says, so he can have an alibi while he commits the thefts himself. Yeah, he was caught in the crime scene photo dressed up as Mask to Mask pretty well. Then again, he seemed surprised that there was actually a photo of him. So was he just acting? It still seems so suspicious. I'm so glad that you got your Sacred Urn back. Yes, but there's still something that bothers me about it. What is it? I'm not exactly sure, but somehow the urn that came back seems different. Really? You wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Miss Andrews? No, I don't know anything. Why would I? Oh, great, she's lying to me again. I believe she lied to me last time I talked to her. Now she's lying to me again. What do you think this means, Nick? It means the person that holds the secret to the mystery of the Sacred Urn is our very own Miss Andrews. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know if I have enough evidence, so I'm gonna go try and collect more evidence before I talk to her. What happens if I visit this place? So many places I can go. Oh, this place is literally crawling with cops. What did you expect? Now that they know he was actually Mask to Mask, this must be incredibly embarrassing for them, don't you think? Yeah, I guess they're trying to make up for it by tearing the place apart. Yeah, I just noticed. Gumshoe is nowhere to be seen. Well, he is a homicide detective. He's probably working on the murder case. But wasn't he in charge of the Mask to Mask investigation all the way up to yesterday? Well, a murder case is a lot more exciting, isn't it? He'd say something like, "There's nothing like a good murder case, pal." Points for the quality of the impression, but I'm not sure Gumshoe has bloodlust, Maya. And what is this purple vase? How come I can't look at anything? It's very weird that I can't look at anything anymore here. Almost like something changed. I don't know what, because I don't see anything. Oh well. Now where do we go? Detention Center? No. Let's try and break her psych locks now. The Sacred Urn. Miss Andrews, do you know anything about the Sacred Urn? Do I know anything? I'm in charge of the entire treasure exhibit. The urn that was submitted before the court today. It's obviously not the same urn as before. Well, that's true. Maybe it isn't the same. It could be It could be a fake. A fake? You're the one who said it wasn't the same, so that's the most obvious explanation. Do you have any evidence that the urn that was submitted at the trial was genuine? Do I? I don't think I have enough evidence yet. Investigate and gather some more clues before I try again. So where do we go now? Because he's not here. And there's nothing I can do here. So these two are useless. So all I have is her. What if I present her with this? Or this? Or this? So, Nicky boy, you're a lawyer, huh? I didn't mean to present myself. Well, yeah. How do you like it? I bet it's so exciting. Yeah, sometimes. Actually, a little too exciting at times. Oh, I just love a good thrill. Nicky boy. Sounds like you have it so nice. This is starting to get awkward. Maybe I should present it to Gumshoe. This is why I normally examine first, because I forget to present him with, stuff. So about this. Huh? What's that? Hey, wait a minute, Maya. What's wrong? Copied that data without permission. Don't show it to him. He might get mad at us. So, what are you two whispering about? Oh, it's nothing. It's just my billfold. That's a pretty thick billfold you got there, pal. Now I really want you to show it to me. Detective Gumshoe, about this right here. Oh, we can go to the security room. I didn't see that. What the hell is this place? It looks futuristic and stuff. What is that on the left? It looks like they're playing like Pokemon or something. Wow, this is really something else. For a security guard office, it sure doesn't feel very secure. KB security guard. Uh-oh, I just remembered Larry might be... Hey, Nick, what's up? Ugh, so he is here. Yo, how's it hanging, dude? And you got my sweet little Maya with you, too. Hi, Larry. Here I was working my fingers to the bone, and in walks an angel. I've got no problems with a daytime date. It's all good. No, that's not what we're here for. We're investigating the Bullard murder case. Huh? Oh yeah, that's right. You're a lawyer, aren't you? He's so hopelessly clueless. Well, if it's about the murder case, boy have I got some good info for you. Really? What is it? Well, I don't mind sharing with my sweet little Maya. But Nick here is a different story. But Larry, I thought you two were old school buddies. That was then, and this is now. Okay, let's examine first. First, let's see. That's my partner's seat. Your partner? Well, that's what I call her. She's my superior, actually. Kind of a weird old lady. Oh no. Is it that weird old lady? I hope so. I mean, I hope not. I hope it's not the weird old lady we know. There's tea spilled all over that machine, you know? Oh, don't worry about it. Just the other day I spilled some chocolate milk on mine. Still works fine, more or less. They really know how to build them, I guess. Doo-doo-doo. Something is written on this poster in fine print. A guard's 5 commandments. Wow, this sounds serious. Let's see what it says. 1. Obey thy superior. 2. Respect thy superior. 3. Smile at thy superior. 4. Salute thy superior. 5. Buy donuts for thy superior upon command. It's signed Wendy Oldbag, head supervisor. Oh no! She's one tough old bird, let me tell you. It is the old lady we know. Cross her and you come face to face with her real, genuine ray gun. Yeah, sounds scary alright. It's a real, genuine ray gun. Yeah, fortunately, she's on vacation, that's why I'm so relaxed right now. Hey Larry, that's your jacket, isn't it? That's right. Did you know you hung it right on top of some kind of lever? Yeah, sure. I was told to never ever touch that lever. She scowled and huffed at me. Something terrible will happen if you do. Got it, Greenhorn? So why hang your jacket on such an important lever? Because it got me curious. The jacket's weight pulls the lever down. That's what they call an accident. Doesn't the suspense just kill you? Don't you want to know what'll happen, huh? It's true. It's killing me too. What about you, Nick? Yeah, but for a different reason. The suspense of whether you're gonna pull the lever or not, Maya. It's killing me. Wow, take a look at these things here. Hey, Larry. What are they? Do you say Did you say Yeah, man, it's not like I have to know what they are to do my job. I always thought they were just some kind of decoration or something. Oh boy. How did this guy ever get a job here anyway? What are potato chips doing on your desk? And why are there holes in the floor? What the hell is going on down here? It's ridiculous. There's a juice box. Those screens there show what's going on all over the building everywhere. And it's my job to keep a steady eye on them, all of them. I wouldn't sound so smug if I were you. Can you watch regular TV on these too? If anyone would sit here and watch TV instead of working, it's Larry. Hey Maya, I'm a pro, okay? Besides, you can't get regular TV on it. And how do you know that, Larry? Because that was my first bit of investigation, if you know what I mean. I know what you're thinking. It was a professional investigation, alright? That's my workstation. Pretty cool, huh? I keep a steady eye on the monitors and use that mic for communicating. Look at all this equipment. It must be hard to operate. No biggie. I think there's an instruction manual somewhere in this room. Somewhere? Instruction manual? What are you going to do in an emergency? Well, I guess I'd start by calmly looking for the instruction manual. During that time, my partner, the old lady, would calmly look for her reading glasses. That's what us security professionals call teamwork. Even Maya and Pearls could run this place better. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Smells like old bed. Alright, that was fun. Now time to talk to him. So what's this good info you were talking about, Larry? Hey, I'm a guard. A pro. I can't just give away information for free. He wants a bribe? I thought professionals were more, I don't know, honest? Can you talk to him, Maya? Larry, tell us already, what's the good info? Hey, I like that. This kitten's got some claws. Okay, you really want to know? Yes, so tell me. Okay, so the thing is, Rhonda Light was an employee here. And naturally, since I'm a pro, I looked into his background. Follow me? Yes, you're a pro. I follow you. Go on. Well, 1 year ago, Rhonda Light was fired. And there was no warning at all. Just happened all of a sudden. I know this is a small company, but I think that was pretty awful. I guess he must have done something bad to have gotten fired like that. Maybe skipping out of work to go pick up hot chicks or something. No, that's just you. So what is it like to be a part-time security guard? Let me tell you, it's rough. Well, you know me. I get by alright, I guess. First, I have to keep my eye on those monitors all the time. Monitors? There are security cameras set in each room around the building. It's really hard. Sometimes I feel like my eyes are gonna fall out. Oh. And if I see something suspicious, I have to contact one of the teams. What teams? The security teams for this company. They're supposedly the best in the business. But I'm no amateur either. So if it's small, something small, I don't bother calling them. So in other words, you basically watch TV screens all day long. You were in this office when the murder took place, weren't you? Why do you say that? This is just a part-time job for me. And I can't operate the equipment. And I'm dumb. Even if it is a part-time job. Even if it is part-time and you are dumb, you're still in charge of security here. Hey, give me a break. Don't try to pin the whole thing on me. That's not fair, Nick. Huh? I don't think you can expect someone like him to take any responsibility. Anyway, the point is that you were here that night, right? Oh, great. Larry's lying to me, too. Oh no, I knew something smelled bad, and it was the butts after all. Well, it's like I always say, that was then, and this is now, okay? Looks like I'm going to have to break his psych locks after all. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. On the night of the crime, you were working hard like you were supposed to? What? Huh? Of course I was. Why wouldn't I have been? But didn't you sneak out of work just yesterday to go to see Miss Delight? Ah, but that was that, and this is this. Is there any chance that you snuck out of work last night, too? Never, I didn't sneak out. I tell you what, I'll even bet you $1. $1, wow. Now that's some confidence. What's with that drenched in the rain puppy look on your face? Do you have evidence that I left my position, or are you just pulling my chain? Evidence that Larry was not manning his station when the murder happened is... Was it this? No, this definitely was not during the murder. I mean, it's pretty obviously he wasn't there because he didn't sound any alarm or anything. But I don't know what I would present. I don't think I have enough evidence yet to investigate and gather some more clues before I try again. Oh, no one there. What should I do, Maya? So what do we do now? Isn't it obvious we should go out there and investigate the murder? Yeah, I already read this stuff. No one's at the detention center. I feel like it has to do with something like this, with this area. Hmm. I don't know what to do here. Hey Larry, there's something I want you to look at. Does he want to look at anything? Hmm. Who else could we show it to? Hmm. Do I have any proof? Not really. I'm gonna end there. Try and figure it out next time. But I'm getting tired. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next stream. See ya.